Hello and welcome to the RPG Rundown. I'm Seth.
And I'm Jeff. From dungeons to deep space, we've got the systems and the stories for your table. Hey, welcome in. Today, we're going to be diving into the official release of Daggerheart. So we've play tested it. We spent time exploring the system. Now, today, we are giving you our official critical review of the system, from bold mechanics to big questions about balancing, storytelling. We're breaking it all down: what worked, what didn't, and whether Daggerheart deserves a place at your table. So what do you say we get into it?
I think it's time. It's time for this
It's
discussion.
time.
We've
Oh,
been
I'm so
waiting
excited.
for months.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I'm excited.
Yes. And so maybe real quick, if anyone, no one's, someone's here that hasn't watched our videos before and they don't know what a critical review is, Seth, would you like to tell them a little bit about it?
Absolutely. So our critical review system is an acrostic, right? That's the right word, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
Each letter means something.
Each
That's what
letter
it is.
means something. And what it means is C for character creation, R for roleplay opportunities, I for integration of lore, T for tabletop experience, I for in-game mechanics, C for combat system, A for artwork and design, and L for learning curve. And that is our critical review system. No, but seriously, Jeff came up with the critical review system, and it just fits perfectly into the RPG Rundown podcast because that's what we do. We like to look at different systems, and it is a very holistic approach. And so we're going to do that with Daggerheart today. If you have been, perusing all of the Daggerheart reviews that are out there, let me just say, as have I, let me just say, you've come to the right place, because while there are a lot of people who have played Daggerheart or have played Daggerheart in the beta, but haven't since it released, Jeff and I have played since it released. So
We did.
we are some of the few, I'm going to say, putting out reviews that have actually played the game since May 20th. Date of recording, it's the 26th. We had definitely had to rush to get it in, but hey, we're here.
We did. We did.
And it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I did get mine. I pre-ordered it a long time ago, and so I have mine. I just got the standard edition, the core set, which came with the rule book, and it came with the cards. So I'll show those off in just a minute. No, let's just show them off right now, shall we?
Let's show them off right now. Yeah. And I will say I'm the slacker. I'm the one that ordered after release, and so now I've got to wait till I think June 5th is when mine's supposed to be here. So, but it's coming, and I'm already setting up an in-person mini campaign I'm going to run in Daggerheart. Pretty excited about.
Absolutely. It came with this really nice. It's kind of hard to see in the small camera here, so I'll kind of hold it up. But it's got this really nice case. It has this really quality little pull tab for pulling it out of the slipcase. But again, it has six trays for the for all the cards, and it does have like all of the different ancestries. It has sorry, that's was kind of bright there. It's kind of hard to see. It has all of the it has all the cards. My only complaint is it only has one of each ancestry. It does have two of all of the class cards.
Okay.
But it doesn't have, I think, but it does not have, like I said, it only has one of each ancestry. So, however, if you pre-ordered it from Critical Role, I did receive an email from Darrington Press with the PDF, and it does have full printable versions of all the cards.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. And so all the cards that I have here are fully printable in
Hmm.
from the PDF that I received.
Right.
Now, even if you didn't do that, you can actually get a printable version of all the cards for free from their website. However, it's a printer-friendly version, and so there is no artwork.
Mm.
So if it's
Not
for
as fun.
not as fun. So basically, there's a blank spot where the art should go,
Right.
but there is a Daggerheart like logo just kind of there in the middle.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but hey, you can download it and print them for free. So
Right.
that's
Which is very nice.
that's still pretty
And
great.
I don't know this, I haven't heard it or anything, but I have to imagine you'll eventually be able to order extra decks of cards.
I can only
Which
imagine.
I don't know, maybe not, but I would think that they would open that up at some point.
I would be shocked, honestly, if they don't. However,
Right.
I could also understand in the current climate of board games, tabletop games, and other things that are produced in other countries. I could see them not doing it for quite a while
That's
until
true.
things are a little more certain. So,
Hmm. Fair enough.
from the things that I've seen, I have seen some reports saying that obviously there's not as high tariffs as were on games as were originally thought. I've seen reports from other people who have said that if you put in the right shipping code, there's like almost no tariff. It's just a matter of if you put it in as like a bulk code, it like basically gets bulked in with like other things in it. Then it's, I feel like Critical Role probably has a capability to
Right.
ship
To
larger
figure
amounts
that out.
than like
Yeah.
a smaller company where they have to package it with other things.
Hmm.
And then I've also seen, things were saying like, well, even though there's tariffs, they're paused until, into summer or something. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
Regardless, I know that it is, even just the uncertainty is a big deal. So, like I said, I think because they have it as print and play, I imagine it will be a while before they release that
Right. Yeah.
as a
Probably so.
separate item. So,
Yeah.
um,
And as they add on to the game, just with what the cards are, I have to imagine there'll be more like when there's an expansion, there'll be more cards that come with the expansions and things like that. So
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, and that's one thing too, because so before we dive into the review, I wanted to talk about the launch. I wanted to talk about a couple of things that they also almost immediately showed us. And so
okay.
one of the things that they had, let me pull this up as well, actually. So if you go to Daggerheart.com, there's a couple of things that they immediately launched on May 20th that were game changers and already miles ahead of where D&D is with their stuff. So they immediately put out, the equivalent of Wizards Unearthed Arcana. Instead of calling it that, though, they called it the Void. And so, yeah, if you go to Daggerheart, if you go to Daggerheart.com and you go to
Oh yeah, there's just a section that just says the void.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, sorry. If
Interesting,
you're watching
yeah.
if you're watching on there we go. Okay. I was trying to make sure the presentation was lined up because it didn't want to for a second. But so, yeah, also, too, if you're listening to the podcast, that's a good reminder. Go check out the YouTube channel or
Yes.
Spotify or watch it on Love That Nerd's website as well.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, if you go to daggerheart.com/thevoid, because just void by itself doesn't work. So it's the void. This is their version of Unearthed Arcana. And so it's their playtest area for upcoming content. And they already have 2 new classes.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
With full downloads for playtesting. They have the Warlock class.
The game's been out 6 days.
The game has been out 6 days, and this was launched day 1. They have the Warlock class, okay, with a brand new domain. So there's the domain cards to choose from, and each class has access to 2 domains. They have access to a brand new domain that's not in the domain circle already, and it's the domain of Dread. Wow. And so there's a whole bunch of cards that are print and play in the Warlock download, and oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm excited to see that. Awesome. And then they have the Fighter class, okay? And the Fighter class is a little different than the D&D Fighter class because it kind of appears to be a little more traditional, like monk martial artist. Although they do have Juggernaut as well as a as an alternative. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So it's not a warrior and it's not a guardian. But yeah, I'm excited to see that. And then there's a place to submit feedback. So that is one thing that is really fantastic. The second thing that is out there, well, let's see. Second, there's a downloads page. Okay, the downloads page has, like I said, it has character sheets and guides. And if you don't know, Daggerheart's character sheets have like the full character creation instructions included in them. Right. There's an additional sheet. There's print and play cards. Those are the ones that I was telling you were blank, no artwork. They have blank maps. They have the campaign frame materials, which that one's a little interesting because it almost just looked like some maps. It didn't look like a whole bunch of stuff. There's a quick start adventure, which anyone can download and play for free, and it has enough rules to get started. There is the Sablewood location, and then there's errata, and there is already a page of errata. Most of it is like spelling and editing mistakes. So,
right.
But then the last thing, there's a whole thing about Session 0, which is really really good. But then the last thing before we dive into our critical review is they are coming out with a card creator. And this is a big deal, folks. And it's launching on like the June 3rd, like the same day that pre-orders from Amazon are going out.
Right.
You will be able to take any of the cards that are available and fully customize them or create your own. This is instantly amazing for homebrew creators.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is huge. I mean, for anyone who likes to homebrew, like they're opening up. And this is one thing that I'm excited about with Critical Role putting out a system. Like love or hate Critical Role, Role cares about their fan base. And so they're going to do things that really take care of the community, whereas some might argue that Wizards doesn't always have their community in mind when they make changes.
Yeah, no, it's something that Daggerheart is doing very well, is setting up for homebrew creators and third-party creators. Yeah. So, like, if you're watching, showing off just a little bit of the YouTube video that explained kind of how to do it, it's very cool. We're not going to watch the whole thing. But, I mean, you can change the colors to custom colors. You can change the picture. You can change all of the text. Oh, man. It's going to be awesome.
That's pretty awesome. Okay.
So, all of that is just exciting things to say. Daggerheart's here. We're very excited. We're very excited. And so, yeah, we're going to dive into our critical review. Last thing I want to say, okay, I did have the fantastic opportunity to join our friends at the Pocket Dimension, specifically Matt from the Pocket Dimension, to record a video about one of Matt and I's, and I think you kind of share it as well, one of our major and only complaints really about Daggerheart.
Right.
And that is the name serif for the healing cleric class.
Right.
Love the class. Love the mechanics of the class. Just have a problem with the name. And so look for that video from the Pocket Dimension because it will be going live this week. And listen to our big breakdown argument of that. So not argument, but discussion.
Right. There you go. Okay.
But hey, let's dive into the critical review. Jeff, why don't you take us off with the first one there?
Okay. First off is going to be character creation. And so from this, I'm going to share very briefly from my side, and I think Seth probably has a different perspective on it. I don't have the physical things in hand yet. So the only character creation I've done, and I've actually already done quite a bit of character creation, but I did it through a demiplane, which if you're not familiar with a demiplane, I recommend checking it out. But you can go on to demiplane and you can create a character for Daggerheart. And fortunately, Seth bought the books on there. He started a campaign with us and with content sharing, and we had access to all of the things. And so I will say, I feel like the character creation in Daggerheart is probably one of the easiest character creation models that I've seen. I can't wait to actually see it. So my in-person group is a very relatively inexperienced TTRPG group, and so I'm very excited to sit down and watch them create characters and pick and choose domain cards, right? I think just the card mechanic is something that really simplifies it. You don't have to you're not flipping through pages and pages and pages, or tables and tables in a book. You actually just have cards, and it's hey, pick 2 of these cards that you want to start with. And then when you level up, you get to pick another card. And it's really just choosing these cards. So, I mean, I will say too, Demiplane works really, really well for Daggerheart. I wasn't sure how well they were going to handle some of the mechanical items we're going to talk about later with hope tokens and armor and things like that. But Demiplane worked very well for things like that. And I'll just say for the character creator, I think maybe the one thing I will say right now, of course, the game has been out 6 days. It's the first iteration of it. Your character creation is going to be much more limited than something like 5e would be, because 5e obviously has been around and you have 1,000 subclasses to choose from and a million different ways to build characters. At this point with Daggerheart, it's all still very limited, I think each class only has 2 subclasses to choose from, and then to begin with, there's only 6 or 8 domain cards to choose from, and so it's a little bit more limited if I had to put some sort of flaw on it, but that has to do with just it being so new and there's just not as much out yet. Yeah, that would be my perspective from building my characters, and I think I built 3 and ended up just I obviously only played one of them, but I ended up playing a flying turtle. It was amazing.
No, that's awesome. And besides, so Demiplane is fantastic. Honestly, it is, in my opinion, they worked really hard with the character creator for Daggerheart, and I would say it's probably easier than creating a character for D&D on D&D Beyond.
Oh yeah, easily.
Now, obviously, there's only 2 subdomains so far for each class, or subclasses, kind of thing. But even still, I mean, with D&D Beyond, you only have access to 2 or 3 with the basic rules.
Right. Yeah.
So unless you've bought a bunch of extra rules, that's all you're going to have.
Yeah. Right.
But even still, I feel like it really guides you through it. Now, Demiplane is fantastic. However, I want to, and this is something we talked about in the beta whenever we ran it, and it's still true now. Daggerheart has, in my opinion, the best character, the best and well-guided character creation of any system that we've played. And I mean that also from the standpoint of the book gives you very easy to follow steps. But if you have the free downloadable and printable character sheet for that class, because they do have class-specific character sheets. They have a blank one that's generic, but it's easier just to get the one for your class.
Right.
They have everything in that document you need to create a character. And then not just to create a character, but to learn how to level it up. It's incredible. And when I say that, one of the big things that Daggerheart does, besides letting you know how to do it, is that they have this thing called the sidecar. And the sidecar is a printable piece of paper that it's double-sided. But basically, if you put it underneath your character sheet on one side, there's arrows that line up that tell you exactly what everything on your character sheet does on that side. If you slide it to the other side and overlap it with the character sheet on that side, arrows line up and it shows you exactly what everything on that side of the character sheet does. It is amazing.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. And kind of going with just jumping back to Demiplane, because that's where my experience is right now. That's basically built into the Daggerheart character sheets in Demiplane. Something I realized, Seth, when you were I looked through our playtest, and I know you weren't able to show it, and I think it was because you were previewing someone else's character sheet.
No, because I looked at mine and it
But
wasn't
yeah,
there
anyway,
either.
there's. Oh, okay. I'm not sure why sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but there is a like hints button, and if you hit show hints, it literally pops up all over your screen, showing you basically the same information that's on the sidecar, and so you have that like for the online on Demiplane as well.
Yeah, and I don't know why I couldn't see it. I'm looking again right now, and I
Yeah.
still can't see it. I bet that there's something in the character sheet options that
Maybe
lets me
so.
turn it on and off. I don't know. Well, I'm not going to go search for it right now. But because
Right.
somebody else said that they looked at theirs and it was there, and then they refreshed and it wasn't there. So,
Right.
so
here,
I don't know.
I'm gonna send you just an image of it in Discord if you wanted to show it on stream at all. But that is what my like hints or sidecar looks like on Demiplane. We've yet to crack why it's there for some and why it's not there for others. But if you're one of the fortunate few, you'll have access to that, and it'll give you all the information you need.
Let's see. How can I show this? Actually, I'm trying to think. There we go.
Oh.
Download. No, I do see that, and that's fantastic. I'm gonna have to go find it though, and I think it'll be more trouble to try to get it put into the presentation right now than it's worth.
No,
So,
no worries. I didn't know if you had like a screen share or something that you.
well, I do, but right now I have it set up with two different things. I don't have it just with the screen itself. So,
No worries.
but that's okay.
that's
No,
fine.
it is fantastic. Like I said, the sidecar is an excellent feature. And again, I think that they put a lot of love and time into making sure that character creation was very easy to understand. And it's going to go to the the last one, the L, is the learning curve. It's spot on. So, but let's go on to role play opportunities. And I'm going to jump on this one here because one of the big inspirations for Daggerheart, and in their opening credits, they said, we have a whole bunch of TTRPG systems that we've played. We love a bunch of them, but there's some that were very deep inspiration for mechanics that we chose. And one of the ones that they chose was the Fantasy Flight Games Genesis system, the Star Wars Fantasy Flight RPG game. And they really loved the narrative dice element. And so they incorporated that in a very unique way with, maybe not unique, but a very cool way with duality dice. So instead of the players rolling a d20, they roll two d12s. They still have to beat an AC of some kind. But instead of just having a pass or fail, so instead of having two possible outcomes, pass or fail, it has four possible outcomes, which is similar to Fantasy Flight's game, where you have pass with hope. Okay, so positive, positive. You have pass with fear, So success, but with a negative. You have fail with hope, which is, you know, fail with a
succeed,
positive,
but, yeah.
and then you have, fail with fear. So double negative there, kind of thing,
Right.
and it can really help drive the narrative, especially when you have newer players, and so being able to have the dice, rather than just the pass fail system of like most TTRPGs, this gives players a very clear idea of the kind of role play or tone of the dice result.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being like, oh, I succeeded, but something bad, but with fear.
Right.
And so it's, I don't know, like in my experience, everyone I know who has played it has found it easier to be like, I hit, but I left myself off balance or something, kind of thing. So you can kind of role play that. But then on top of that, there are mechanical benefits as well. So if you get hope, the player gets to take a hope point that they can spend on themselves or their allies. Fear tokens are given to the DM if players roll a fear, and that is something that the DM uses later.
Mm-hmm.
And again, all of this is just great opportunities to drive the narrative. And I think on top of that, it was designed to be a narrative TTRPG system. I mean, you can absolutely get tactical and crunchy with it, but knowing who created it, Critical Role, definitely narrative focused.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I would kind of add into that, and it's something we're kind of going to dip into further into the in-game mechanics section, but just the idea of hope and fear, like from a player standpoint, they're very accurately named, and they do actually enhance, I think, the role play opportunities, because like as you roll with hope, like if even if I fail and I get hope, I get to add a hope check mark. Now a lot of my abilities are powered by hope, and so it's like as I start to gain more hope, you genuinely start to get more hopeful, because it's like, oh, suddenly there's more things I can do. However, if you keep rolling with fear and you keep giving the DM more and more fear tokens, you start to get worried about what he can do with that. And I think that kind of influences the way you play the game, like the more fear, the more hope. Kind of going with the role play opportunities, something cool they really do, even in the character creation side, is there's a whole section called connections. And the idea is
Yes.
that when you build your characters, you actually sit down at the table with your other people and you build these connections together so that your characters, like it's already part of character creation, is to connect your characters to each other.
Oh
Which
yeah.
I think is really helpful. I know for our playtest, we did not have time to actually fully do that. But in our beta playtest, we did do that, and it was pretty cool. I'll also say one thing they do. I know at least in the starter adventure, I don't know how it's going to be integrated in future things, but they really open it up for the player to be able to help build the world. Like I remember in the starter adventure, you asked, there's something weird about the trees. What is it? And
Oh
I
yeah.
think I'd said they're giant weeping willows with bulging vines or something of the sort. But it actually allows the player to come into the world creation and things of that sort too, which all go in to
Absolutely.
help enhance the role play opportunities of it.
And in the core book, it definitely encourages like the GM and the players to engage in that kind of world building together, which is fantastic. So more ways to have role play opportunity, and it's I'm not gonna lie, like I am excited to play this again, and in fact, my wife plays mahjong, so shout out to any mahjong players out there. It is a fun game, I enjoy it. However, she has her friend group that she goes to play it with, and I already have talked to a couple people, and the next time she does, I'm gonna have some people over and play Daggerheart.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I pretty much already have my party set up and ready to play. I'm just like, as soon as my stuff gets here, we're gonna set it up and go play.
Yeah, I'm gonna get Austin. I'm gonna try to get Dave and Kyle, who are here locally with me. All
Right,
three
yeah.
of them are. And then if I need to, I can always get the kids, Gray and D, in.
There you
So
go. Yeah.
have a good, nice big full
Nice.
party. So, because here's the thing, if it's just me and the boys, they're like, maybe. But if I had like
Right.
friends over, they're like, oh yeah, we want to be a part of that.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
but
No,
hey, let's
for
move
sure.
on to the next one.
Mhm.
Integration of lore. How well does the game incorporate its lore and world building elements? So we kind of like are segueing in here because we just talked about world building.
Right.
And I'm going to let you cover this, but I just want to say it in my these were kind of my words. It's lore light but theme heavy, and
Okay. Yeah.
and I'll let you take it away from there.
Okay, I'm actually going to play an Uno reverse card real quick, and I'm going
Okay,
to let
okay.
you talk about lore because you have the book in hand, and I haven't actually read through it that
That's
deep.
fine because
Now,
honestly, you have a better tabletop
yeah.
experience as a player than I do. So
Oh, fair enough. Okay, so Uno reverse, you cover this one.
okay,
I'll jump in on the next one.
so lore light theme heavy was my kind of like
Yeah.
instant reaction thing because so the core rules give 6 campaign frames for playing in kind of a lightly defined setting.
Okay.
So think about this. This is not D&D from from the 70s. We don't have massive campaign settings that have been built over decades.
Mhm.
And Critical Role has been slowly, separating themselves from specific D&D, settings and anything that can be tied back to,
Right.
the IP specifically of
Mhm.
Wizards of the Coast, which is fine. But there's 6 campaign frames, and these campaign frames are kind of a setting and kind of just a theme. And so, it, like I'm just going to tell you what they are first. So there's the Wither Wild. There's the 5 Banners Burning. There's Beast Feast, the Age of Umbra, Motherboard, and Colossus of the Drylands.
Okay.
And what these are is they are very distinct kind of game themes or styles even, because they're and you can definitely take a little bit of lore from them. Like there's a little bit of lore that they have to get you started, but it's very light. It's not a full campaign setting like Critical Role's previous publications are. And so when you look at the game, let's see. I'm going to show off one for a second here. So we're going to go to our presentation.
Yeah. So I don't have access to any of this yet. So this is honestly, I'm hearing about it for the first time too. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah, this was not something they had
Oh.
in
Uh,
what's up?
so under downloads, there's on this. It's the campaign frame materials. I'm assuming this is what's there. Is information about these
Yes,
different.
well, sort
Gotcha.
of. It's not
Okay.
all of it. In fact,
No.
I feel
Okay.
like it's only one for Motherboard, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
So, um, the Wither Wild is. I just kind of wanted to give you. So it's an invading nation attacks an ancient forest deity. A virulent overgrowth spreads throughout the land. That's like the one-liner for what the Wither Wild is. Okay. The second one is 5 Banners Burning. Okay. And it's kind of cool in that it is like long brewing tensions between rival nations boil over, threatening all-out war. So, if you want to play in a very faction, warlike scenario, that 5 Banners Burning is your thing. Beast Feast is a very what's the campaign that you have run for a while? What's the
Uh,
term? What's the term for it?
West Marches.
West March's style of campaign, where you are in a town and certain magical creatures are out there, and you basically go hunt them and then you cook them.
Pretty
That's
cool.
so it's
That's
a
pretty cool, actually.
little it's a little more silly, kind of
Sort of like
fun,
Monster of the Week type thing.
kind of,
Yeah.
but almost not as well. Like I said,
Yeah.
basically, it would be a very easy one to do West March's campaign because
Hmm.
you're all in the town
Yeah,
and you
that'd
have
be
to go
great.
out on an adventure, find this beast, kill it, and then cook it.
Hmm. Right. I like
um,
it.
so yeah, but then you have the Age of Umbra. Age of Umbra. This is what Critical Role is about to do. Their first Daggerheart mini adventure,
I
and
think
it's
yeah, I think they're
basically
they're calling it a mini
it's the
campaign,
very
maybe. I don't know.
it's yeah it's a very dark Shadow Dark inspired. What's the video game that everyone talks about? That's it's like it's the action RPG kind of game. Anyway,
Elden Ring type.
like yeah, kind of an Elden. It's so anyway. It's in a dying world. The immersed in a dying world immersed in relentless shadow and nightmarish monsters. Small communities hold fast to the light, hoping those who endure can find a way to save this broken realm before all is lost to the darkness. So it basically starts you, and you're like, it's not hopeless, but there's not a lot of hope. So,
Gotcha. Yeah.
Motherboard is almost sci-fi in nature. It's that kind of fantasy tech,
Hmm.
and it's like one of the things that's different about it, and this is like different campaign frames have different elements where they take something from the rules and they say, okay, well now you can't use this, or now you can't use this, or now you need to do this. And one of the things with Motherboard is that the Clank ancestry, which are like the
You're like Warforged
Warforged.
robot
Yes,
type.
thank you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
you can't play as one
Right.
because they've all basically been taken over by like AI and other stuff. And so it's very interesting. There's like a whole way to like write an alphabetic digital language in there as well. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's really interesting. And then the last one
Okay.
is Colossus of the Drylands, and this is like Monster Hunter Wildlands. I mean, this is basically what it is.
Really. So
This
that's
might be a
exciting
little
to
bit
me.
more Monster of the Week, where it's like, hey,
Really.
we're gonna go out, we're gonna find this massive colossal creature, and
Yeah.
we're gonna try to
Yeah.
take it down. So
Yeah. So okay, I had again, I don't have access, but I feel like I was listening to a review or something. They were talking about this, and that's where you have to like you defeat each limb individually. Like so you got to like beat the right leg, and
yeah,
like
it's
there's
like a
mechanics
big
like that in
deal.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that sounds awesome. I don't know.
like I said, there is lore.
Mhm.
There is some included lore, especially when you look at the character creation. Right, there's lore for the ancestries. There's lore for the um, classes and for just like different parts of the book. But so far, there's not a lot, and that's okay
Right.
because I think that we have
Yeah.
a long way to go.
Hmm. Hmm. I
So
agree, and this is still very early. I mean, obviously, it's very early in the game. I think
yeah,
that is most anyone watching this probably already knows right now is very early for the game.
but
But
it's
it's pretty
not.
incredible what all we have already.
But everything else besides that is not shallow. Everything else is fully fleshed out.
Mhm.
It's well thought out. I'm not gonna say that. We're gonna get into it in the design later. But yeah,
Right,
everything
for
feels
sure.
really good about it though.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so let's go with the tabletop experience. How immersive and engaging is a tabletop experience, and what are the social dynamics like during play, Jeff?
Okay. Yeah, so I personally I really liked the tabletop experience. I'm gonna say there's one thing in it that I didn't care for. I think I probably complained about it in the beta as well. But that's really that one thing is gonna depend on your group. Um, for me, I really enjoyed it. I thought that everything from like the ancestry to the class, subclasses, things like that, I thought was really clear. I'm gonna hit on something that's also again gonna come up in the mechanics, but I really enjoyed like the hope. Just that there's several different mechanics that I think add to the experience, which is why I want to bring them up right now. Is like are like okay, something as simple as taking a short rest. is so there's so much more. There's even still a game that's played in your short rest, basically, of choosing whether, okay, what do I need? Do I need to relieve stress? Do I need to heal my hit points? Do I need to fix my armor? Do I need to help one of my allies who need, more healing than I do? Because there's like these different things that go into the experience. Like even when you're about to get hit, you get to take the choice. Okay, I have 4 armor slots. Do I want to burn one of those armor slots and reduce the damage that I'm going to take, or do I just want to take the full blunt of the damage? And I think to me, I'm someone who likes stuff you have to think about, and so I really enjoyed that part of the experience, which I know is going to get a little bit more into the mechanics of it. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and one thing I didn't realize I was going to enjoy so much would be critical rolls. And okay, so everyone knows when you roll a d20, you see the 20 face or the logo or whatever's on your dice when it pops up, you're super excited. Like there's almost a delayed excitement when you roll a crit with 2d12s, because what happens, to get a crit is just 2 matching dice. It can be matching ones, it can be matching 12s, doesn't matter. But whenever you roll a crit, it's like, oh, a 9 and a 9, you're like, oh, that's a crit. Like, there's like a delayed reaction to it. I did. That's exactly what I rolled, was 2 9s.
Yeah.
And critted on like the dumbest roll in the game, but it was still really cool. I don't know. I don't know why, but I enjoyed that a lot.
And what do you think, like, with, how do you think the flow of the game went with, like, socially? Do you feel like you were, when it wasn't your turn, did you feel like you were sitting there waiting the whole time? Or do you feel like it went pretty smoothly, pretty quickly?
I do, and that's what I literally started this saying. There's something I wanted to complain about, and you just kind of brought it back up for me. The one thing I don't love, and I've realized that, and maybe it's the group that I play with, because I am always going to be probably the most outgoing player. I've just realized that, like, my player is always ready to do something and just go. But in Daggerheart, at least as it's written, rules it's written, there is no initiative. It's just, go in the order that you want to. And so, like, my player will probably always be the first person to go, because I'll be the first one to speak up. But then, like, if you have a less experienced group or a lesser outspoken group, everyone might wait for someone else to go, and then no one ends up going. I will say that was probably, and I think I complained about that in the beta too, is I don't necessarily love the no initiative. But I guess the more you play, maybe your group will figure out the rhythm of it. And I'm going to kind of, in my in-person group, I'm going to play test it both ways. I'm going to play test it with the no initiative, and then I'm going to bring in some sort of initiative system too, even if I homebrew my own.
And that's understandable. I think where that, I mean, this, we can kind of get into this with the mechanics, but I think that
Right.
it's just something you have to get used to. Specifically, like, essentially, you always start with the players in the spotlight, which means it's their turn to take action. And then the DM basically interjects, depending when they want to narratively, or if they have fear tokens they want to use, or both.
Right.
And that's how it kind of changes. And then you can kind of keep doing some things in it. So I definitely get it. I think I think once you kind of get used to that, all right, players are always the ones kind of going, unless there's an ambush. There are
Right.
mechanics for
There are mechanics to take.
being ambushed or ambushing others. So there's mechanics around that, but yeah, it is definitely a little bit different.
Yeah, it's just that idea that, your quieter players will, most of the time always go last, or or they won't speak up to go even if they want to go. Whereas,
And that's
like,
yeah. I think that's the thing. When you do a one shot, you'll see that. I think the more you
Right.
play, I think 3 sessions in, I think everyone will probably start to get it.
Yeah. But I will say, like, I'm going to also say I think there's a good thing about that, because I did find myself paying a little bit more attention in initiative. Like, 'cause sometimes in initiative, you're just like, I rolled a 6. I know it's going to be a while before I have to do anything.
Yeah.
But in this one, you're like, ooh, this would be a good time for me to jump in, right? Like, or, oh, he's about to do this. It'd be really cool if I came right behind him and did this, and you can kind of pick and choose, because pretty much all the players get to go, and then the enemies get to go. And guess, unless, like Seth said, the DM uses his fear tokens to mess up everything.
Yeah,
Right?
to interject, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's and literally it says moves in combat. Since Daggerheart is a collaborative and conversational storytelling experience between the GM and players, combat has no initiative order, no rounds, and no distinct number of actions you can take while in the spotlight. Instead, fights play out narratively from moment to moment. And so, yes, and especially for some more quieter players who maybe just, the way that their brain works, they need that more structured initiative order. I think you could very easily have an initiative order, even if you just say, okay, you know what? In this first phase of combat, I want you guys to determine who's going to go first and who's going to go, who's going to go in what order. So rather, you could almost say, without taking an initiative, you could just say, hey, I want you guys to set your own order for actions. It can be, it can be tank, DPS and then heals every time. It doesn't matter, whatever.
Right.
But then just be prepared to, if you need to change it up, you can change it up. Know that you can change it up. So,
And I do think like the longer a party plays together, the more that will figure itself out. Like the party will get better at that. But especially if you have a like D&D past, the no initiative thing is going to be odd. Even like I didn't realize that there was no like set rounds. I still thought I was in my brain. It was still rounds.
I was kind of making it go in rounds in the so
yeah, my brain still saw it as rounds. So that's interesting.
That's okay. So a couple things too I want to mention, because obviously we didn't play this in person, but I think that at the table there's going to be a better sense of engagement because of things like the cards, having physical things in front of you to look at, to pass to the person next to you so they can read what your ability is. That's going to be another point of engagement. And then also Daggerheart they employ tokens for players. I can't remember if they call them something else, but player tokens, essentially, that you can have them be anything, but they are useful for like visually representing your rolls and modifiers. So if you have an attack roll and you're going to roll with your duality dice, and you get a +2 for your attack because of your strength. Well, the idea is that you're going to roll 2 physical attack die, but also in your hand you're going to put 2 of those tokens for your character. So that way you can very easily identify the numbers on the dice plus the 2 tokens there. So you don't forget to add the 2. You don't forget to add something from an ability, or you don't get to whatever. It's just always there physically. And so I do like that.
I forgot about that actually, because I've only played it online now, but I forgot that was a mechanic. That's really cool. That's going to help a lot of my newer players.
So yeah, and I do like that, but one of the reasons I didn't get the limited set was because I personally didn't think that, like, I would have loved to have the DM screen. But other than that, I didn't think that just getting dice and getting a whole bunch of the plastic tokens and then getting, the cards in the limited edition have like gold foil on the side. I'm like, okay, well, I mean, that's cool, but the reality is I'm going to put them all in like card sleeves or whatever. So I just didn't feel like it was worth an extra $100. So,
no.
Again, personally, at the end of the day, also, I have to get lots of other TTRPG systems for us to play. So, there's others that I'm excited about. But no, I think that those are cool, and I think that if you're in a campaign, it'd be very cool to be like, well, I'm playing a druid, so I'm gonna get a bunch of tokens that have like little leaves that look like little leaves, like little acrylic leaf tokens. Or if I'm a bard or something, I'm going to have little music notes or whatever,
So as a previous dice maker,
yes,
as a hobby, I unfortunately had to give up. I cannot wait until the dice making community gets a hold of all the fun, the cool things they're going to be able to make for Daggerheart.
Just wait for the duality dice sets, because they'll
the duality dice, honestly, even making the tokens and different things like the dice making community. I'm still involved. I'm still like in the discords and stuff. Like they're so ridiculously creative.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't wait to see what they come up with.
I actually have some thoughts and ideas for like more interactive character sheet, like
Hmm.
items,
Okay.
like helper
Yeah,
items.
yeah.
So, but I'm not going to give that away here.
Yeah, yeah, no. You have to pay for that
You have to
Kickstarter or
pay for
something.
that. Yeah. But hey, let's move to in-game mechanics.
Yeah, for sure.
So it has an asymmetrical design, which I think is pretty cool. And what I mean by that is that players all use duality dice, meaning 2d12s, while the GM uses a d20 system.
Right. I thought
um,
that was interesting.
but I don't hate it, honestly.
No? Okay.
Because, and here's why. And they explain it really well in the rules, so I'm going to
Okay.
paraphrase this. But essentially, rolling 2d12s gives you a better chance at having a better bell curve of having those positive numbers come through. Okay? Whereas in a d20, you're more likely to have those high and low swings.
Hmm.
So, you're just as likely to roll a 3, but with 2d12s, you're more likely to roll a 7
Hmm.
than a
Right.
3 or 4. Kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to, I'm not a statistician. I don't know the exact probabilities, so sorry if I'm saying it wrong, but
Right.
there is a better probability of you getting more positive outcomes, even if it's, you know, the positive and negative can still be there with the duality, but um, yeah. So that's one thing that's really cool, and refreshing in my opinion. But it also does a very good job of clarifying areas of mechanics that other systems sometimes overcomplicate.
Hmm.
So anyway, I still consider it kind of a rules medium. I mean, like,
Hmm.
it can be just as complicated as like 5e, because 5e
Hmm.
was even like a little bit less rules heavy than fourth edition of D&D. Fourth edition was like super heavy,
Hmm.
very combat oriented, very meta based, and 5e was like, well, we can just kind of do whatever, kind of thing. At least that's how we play
Right.
it.
Yeah, very sure.
um,
Yeah.
but anyway, I've got a good list here, but like, why don't you lead us
Okay.
off? Is there anything about those else that you want to say? I think we've talked about duality a lot, but
Hmm.
duality dice is
Yeah.
one of the big things.
Yeah. Duality dice, I mean, it's just more dice, and it's always more fun to roll more dice. Like, that's
Absolutely.
just the way it goes, you know? I really like the duality dice system. If or you want me to talk about duality dice alone or go into other
No, go ahead
cool
and
stuff?
go down to the next one there if there's something you'll talk about
Okay.
on that.
Okay, yeah. So next would be evasion and armor. So this evasion is basically your AC, but to me, it makes so much more sense. Like one of the, I just the idea of armor class negating all damage to me was always a little bit silly because it's like I'm in leather armor and I have a 15 AC. You don't hit my AC, so like that because you don't meet what my armor is, that means you don't hit me. Like that never made as much sense, but now they've changed that to evasiveness to where, oh no, you just evade the attack. Like that makes sense. That's how you take no damage.
Yeah,
Because if I'm leather armor and you hit me with a warhammer, I don't care how tough that leather is. Something's gonna hurt, you know.
and it's a
And,
lot
and
lower overall than
oh yeah, yeah. My evasiveness was like a 9. It was of course I was playing the seraph. I was playing it basically as a paladin.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean like I was a 9, so I was not very evasive at all. But
But
then the
it's
idea of armor. Go,
yeah.
go ahead. Were you saying?
I
Go
was just
ahead.
gonna say it's very balanced because if you
Yeah.
have a high evasion, then you usually have a low armor setting. But if you have a low evasion, then you have a high armor setting. So what does armor mean?
Right. Yeah, so armor, based on whatever armor you have, you get a certain amount of armor slots. And so one of the things that I really like, one of the mechanics I really, really like is there's no complicated math. Right. Whenever you've played 5e, you end up with, 45 HP, and then you get hit for 7, and you got to do that math, and you get healed for 3, and you got to do that math, and you got to. So they kind of take out all of that in here by giving you a certain amount of like hit point slots, and I think my character had like 8. hit point slots. So every time I would get hit, I have a damage threshold. And so my damage threshold was, minor damage, major damage, and severe damage. And so basically anything below a 9 was minor, which was 1 hit point slot. Anything in the major, anything from like a 9 to 16 was major damage. That was 2 hit point slots. Anything over a 17 was 3 hit point slots. So what I can do with my armor, say I have 5 armor slots because I'm wearing, chainmail or something. I can actually, if I get hit for, let's say, severe damage, I can burn one of my armor slots to reduce my damage from like severe threshold to take it down to the major threshold. And so you can use your armor slots. So obviously, the stronger armor, the more slots you have. And then during your rest times, your down times, you can repair armor slots to gain some of those back. And so to me, the armor mechanic was honestly all of the HP, the armor. That was to me that made a lot of sense, and it was a very enjoyable mechanic.
And the reality is, it kind of takes out how much math you have to do when
Oh yeah, yeah.
when applying and taking damage, because as a DM, I may roll and be like, oh, that's 37 points of damage, but for the player, it's just severe. So you only take away 3
It's
points.
just 3 slots.
And then you can mitigate with armor if you have some armor. Now that armor does go away until a downtime, which is really cool because we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, very cool. There's also stress, and stress is something like health or hit points. You have a certain number of stress points, and things like psychic damage, other stuff, they do stress damage. You can take stress from different mechanics in game. As the DM, I can give you a stress if you failed with fear. I can be like, oh, well, go ahead and take a stress for that because now you're freaking out that you didn't succeed in such a bad way or whatever. So there's some cool things there. And then whenever that happens, if you lose all of your stress, then any other time you were to take a stress, it would come out of your hit points. But yeah, I think all of that, the evasion, the armor, the health, the stress is very cool. And action rolls, which is, like an ability roll basically, as well as attacking, they're still very much the same. So they're easy to understand. And applying damage is pretty easy as well, because then you roll and, again, all creatures have usually, if not, some of the lower creatures only have like a minor and a major, but then a lot of them will have a minor, major, and severe threshold.
Right. So their damage is working the same way as
their damage is working the same way. So it works both ways. That it's very easy to do. So it's pretty cool in that regard. But what about advantage and disadvantage? Do you remember that one?
Advantage, disadvantage. If I remember correctly, you roll a d6 along with your duality dice.
Yes.
Advantage, you add that d6 onto it. At disadvantage, you reduce the d6.
Absolutely. Which again, I think 5e's advantage disadvantage has always been flawed because it's so big swing or big miss.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Because you could have advantage, but you could roll 2 d20s and get a 2 and a 5, and you're going to miss with both.
Oh, I've done it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, me too. But with the advantage, subtracting 6 from 24 is still 18. So if you were to get, granted, if you got 2 12s, that's a critical hit, but.
But it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So
but if 23, yeah, and so there's still, it's just less swingy, and so I think it lends itself to a better. Yeah. It feels better.
And even just adding in a d6 is always going to at least be a positive outcome, right? Like, yes. Even if you roll a 12 total, well, you still get to add something to it, even if it's only a 3 that you rolled on the d6.
Or a 1.
It's still an addition.
Even if it's only a 1.
Or a 1. Yeah, it still adds to it. It's still a positive thing to have. Yeah, for sure. I like that system.
Me too, hands down. Okay, so moving on to a couple of things. Domain cards obviously are a big deal. Those are, again, these kind of cards that are per class, and they are going to be, they're going to go along with like certain abilities. They're going to give you your special, your subclass. It's really cool how those work. But I think that's another unique element, mechanic. We kind of talked about downtime. So in Daggerheart, you can restore health, you can repair armor, you can restore stress, and you can, if it's a long rest, you also have to like be on guard.
Right.
And certain things. So there are things to do during downtime, even during a short rest, which is fantastic.
Right.
So it's not quite as an automatic reset, and I think it's really nice because it gives like everyone kind of an even chance to come to recover.
Right.
And that goes for helping other people too. You could spend time healing another person, and without any kind of spell. You can just you spend the time applying medical aid.
Right. I think one of the things I really like too is it gives you one. I was going to talk about this earlier, and I feel like it fit better here. Is it makes you actually need to take a short rest, right? Like sometimes, like you take short rest because like, oh, I need to roll some damage dice to get a little bit of hit points back. In this, sometimes you're like, oh, my guy needs a break because he's really stressed, or his armor is really jacked up, and he needs to take a minute and fix it, and stuff that makes sense. But it also makes you take choices. Now we didn't do a long rest, but if I remember correctly, in a long rest, you can still only choose 2 actions, right? It's just you can now do them fully. Is that correct?
I don't remember exactly off the top of my head in the long rest, but yeah, like you could do 2.
Well, yeah. So in a short rest, you can choose 2 things. So if I choose like stress and health, basically, I would get to remove 1 marker off of each. Or no, I get to roll is it a D4 and remove that many markers? Sorry, I should have the rules pulled up here. That'd probably been helpful.
Yes. Yeah, it's a D. I think it's a D4. So
I think so it's a D4. Yeah, so you get to roll that D4 and remove that many hit points markers that have been filled up, right? But on a long rest, I believe you still get to choose 2 of those, but you just get to do them fully for the long rest. So you can fully heal, you can fully reduce stress, or fully mend your armor. And I thought that was really cool that it actually gives you a choice, something you have to think about, because sometimes you might need all of it, and you got to figure out, weigh the options, which ones are going to be the most beneficial right now.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was trying to get down to death here.
Oh yeah, no, you're good.
So
I was trying to talk along to give you enough time to.
No, you're good. So downtime is fantastic. Both long and short rest is very cool. Death is another unique mechanic because there are 3 kind of things to do when you get to end of your hit points. You can go out in a blaze of glory, which means your character embraces death and goes out in a blaze of glory. You take 1 action, which critically succeeds, and then you die. That's basically it. So you basically get to...
I kind of love that, though.
Yeah. There's a void death, where your character avoids death and faces the consequences. So you drop unconscious. Your character can't move or act. They can't be targeted by attacks. And after you do that, then I think you basically like take a scar. And what that means is you basically like stop, like you lower your hope threshold. So like you can, each player can have up to 5 hope. And so I think if you basically die and you avoid death, well, if as long as you get healed back, now the max hope you can ever get is 4. And so it kind of like, if you do it enough, then it's like, well, they're forced into retirement.
Right. Well, yeah, your player, your character's without hope, and so much of what you can do is based on hope. Like I know my one big hill took 3 hope, and so if I get reduced below that, not much you can do.
And then you can risk it all. Roll your duality dice. If the hope die is higher, your character stays on their feet, clears an amount of hit points or stress, and then you get to keep going. But if the fear die is higher, your character dies.
Oh man,
so you can let the dice decide. So it's a pretty cool system.
That's a cool system. That is. I like that. I'm one who homebrews all my death mechanics.
There's
anyway,
still resurrection as a possibility. So,
right.
Anyway, that's just another big one. There's a bunch of other obviously rules that make it, very unique. But I feel like those are kind of the big ones. Let's move on to combat because we're going along. This is going to be a long one, unfortunately.
I had a feeling this was going to be a long one.
Yeah. But let's real quick, is it strategic, fast-paced, or something unique? What would you say?
I would give it all three. I think that it is strategic. I think that's for sure. Just even having the armor slots, the hit points, the stress, the different domain cards that let you do different things. Because you have a lot of options. Even at level 1, I had a lot of options of what I could do at level 1. So I definitely say that it's strategic. It is fast-paced for sure with the like we were talking about just a minute ago with like no true initiative system. It's very, okay, I'm going to go now and they're going to go and then I'm going to, DM's taking this and DM's doing this. And so like I felt like our combats went very quick, especially compared to like a normal system. And then obviously, I would think it's unique, but then it's not. Still, you're rolling dice to hit and then you're rolling damage dice to see how much you do. The way the damage effects with thresholds and stuff is a little bit different, but I would still say it's pretty unique. I will say from a combat standpoint, and from someone who enjoys combat in TTRPGs, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and there's one thing too that that I feel that like it kind of lends itself to both tactical and narrative. So you could easily do. So I say easily. You definitely want to make sure your players are up for it because with our playtest, I think it was a little hard for some of them. But you can play Theater of the Mind, and they kind of built in mechanics to do that with their ranges, because you've got melee range, you have very close, you have close, and you have far. And basically, the idea is that if you're in melee range, you're like face to face, you're fighting it out with, melee weapons, punch, fists, swords, whatever. If you're very close, you're about, 10 feet away. So maybe you have a reach weapon, like a polearm, that's very close and you can still attack. Then there's close, which is like 10 to 30. And so basically, a lot of your ranged and spell attacks are going to happen in the close section. And then far, that's going to be your even further range attacks, maybe your long bows, stuff like that. So you can definitely play without a map and tokens and stuff. However, it's also just as great to play with a map and tokens. Right. And in the print and play materials for the beginner game and everything else, they give you terrain and tokens for all the players and NPCs and stuff like that. So both, it's both narrative and tactical.
Yes.
But I feel like with D&D, 5e, it was always a little harder to do Theater of the Mind. And so I think that with the right crew, you could definitely do it really easily.
Right.
So
yeah.
Okay, artwork and design, and we're not going deeper into combat because combat is combat. We've kind of talked about a lot of the mechanics that go into it already, but I don't know. It feels good, in my opinion.
Yeah, feels good. I agree.
One thing I will say, and this might be, it's a mechanic, but with no initiative, you have with no initiative, right? The GM basically uses fear for fear or failure rolls to interject and interrupt and have the bad guys attack. So in case you're wondering, we may not have said it clearly enough, but in combat, the GM has a lot going on, but That's how it works. They did remove from beta the action tracker. If you remember,
Oh,
there was
okay.
an action
I do remember
tracker,
that.
and they got
Yeah.
rid of that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I do remember the action tracker. Now
But
that
let's
you say that, I'd forgotten about it.
yeah. But let's go on to art and design, shall we?
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, if I'm looking at just the artwork itself, again, I do not have the book in front of me, but looking at everything on the website, the cards and stuff, of course, things I've seen, the reviews I've watched, um, I I love the artwork, and this is something I expected. If you watch anything Critical Role, you know that everything they put out is super high quality. They have amazing graphic designers, video artists, and things like that already, on their team. So, yeah, I thought I like the artwork. I mean, I feel like every game has somewhat of their own style of art. And I think the way that they do their artwork, and I'm talking about specifically the character portraits and the maps and the different things like that, I thought it all fit the theme and such really well. I know that there
Yeah.
are, and I know you want to talk about it a little more, so I'll definitely let you have it. But they do have unique takes on some different species and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, which is really
Yeah.
interesting. And so you'll kind of go through and look, and it looks different than you imagined. So I'll let you talk about that. But from just a like graphic design perspective, as someone who's done graphic design for a really long time, it's great. Which is I didn't expect anything less.
I mean, Jeff, what did you expect? It's Critical Role. It's Darrington Press. It's going to be top-notch artwork. It's going to be
Absolutely.
fantastic design. I think while I wasn't it's not that I didn't expect it. I am just more impressed the more that I read it by how well the game mechanics were designed. The art and the graphic design layout
Hmm.
is fantastic. There's unique things like fairies and goblins that have such unique takes on them. Fairies are like bug-like creatures, and the goblins are more bat-eared with bright, shiny eyes and bright colors.
Yeah.
But just the overall game design, the mechanics, like I said, the onboarding for both new players and GMs is incredible, and
Hmm.
frankly leads us right into our L, which is the learning curve.
Yes, indeed. And yeah, absolutely. And I will say this, just a little bit about my experience with TTRPGs. I've spent quite a bit of time teaching new players how to play D&D for the very first time. From the very first campaign that I started, like in person after you taught me how to play, I started an in-person campaign, and I taught about 8 new players how to play the game. I ran an entire West Marches campaign that we talked about earlier, where the whole idea of that campaign was to bring new people in who couldn't commit to like a full long campaign. They could play a week whenever they could. And I got to teach a lot of people how to play the game at that time too. And so, just having taught so many people how to play, I think the learning curve in Daggerheart is incredibly low. I think that a lot of the ways that the game itself is designed, from domain cards to removing a lot of the math to simplifying rolling by just adding the tokens in, like we talked about earlier, to having honestly at this point a limited amount of subclasses and type of builds and things. And then the videos they're putting out, which if you haven't checked them out, I'm going to forewarn this is a Christian podcast and a Christian YouTube video. It is their videos are called "Get Your Sheet Together," SHEET. They say it a lot quicker than I am willing to here, but those videos are put out and they're very short. They're very quick. They're teaching
High
mechanics in
quality.
a really clear, defined way. Like you said, onboarding. I have experience in marketing, and from a marketing perspective, I can
Yeah.
tell that their target audience is really reaching out to those people who probably aren't that experienced at TTRPGs, and they're trying to really help them take that step in that direction, and to check it out. And so I feel like the learning curve to me is probably the brightest mark I would give Daggerheart. I loved everything, but the learning curve I felt was for a rules medium type game really really good.
Absolutely. And I feel like Daggerheart. is so well designed and so geared towards getting new players and even new GMs, but it's also familiar enough that coming from, 5th edition, from D&D, is so easy, because I think that they really intentionally thought about, hey, where's our biggest group of audience coming from? And it's going to be from Wizards of the Coast and D&D.
Yep.
And I think that is absolutely what's going to happen. I don't think D&D is going anywhere. Yeah. I don't think that it's going to suddenly lose. It's not a D&D killer. I don't care what any thumbnail says. But I think that it's going to be the biggest D&D competitor. But at the same time, I think that, it's going to take the largest market share away from D&D. There are other games that are coming out. There's Draw Steel, and there's the Cosmere RPG. I think both of those are going to be big. But I think Daggerheart, specifically, among all other TTRPGs, is going to get the most, new players and the most mind share, because they've made it so easy for not only onboarding, but they've also made it so easy for content creators, for third-party creators to create and sell things and monetize things. They already have the community game license, the CGL, out, for Daggerheart and Candela Obscura. They also have the new SRD for Daggerheart with all, no artwork and all the things that they don't consider proprietary, or they consider, protected, but it's usable by us as fans and homebrewers. They've made it super easy to do that with an FAQ on very clearly explaining that they're doing this for the fans, and that this is, they're not going to take anything from you as long as you stick to their guidelines. They've already given us logos for, to use for, this is compatible with Daggerheart. Strangely, it's not a dagger. It is a alchemy vial with the same smoke coming off of it.
With the same smoke on it? Interesting. Okay.
But then besides that, they've made it super easy to homebrew. They've made it so easy for homebrewers. And the custom card creator is just a prime example of that. It's, I don't know. I'm super excited. I know that I will be playing more Daggerheart for sure. And I know, you had an observation earlier about Daggerheart and what you thought that would lead to. What, if you want to say that again?
Oh, yeah. So obviously, to get views on videos, you can always say, this is the D&D killer. I don't think D&D is going anywhere. Ultimately, what I think this is going to lead to is it's going to, I think we're going to see more of the D&D community step out into Daggerheart. Now, what I think that's going to do is just open the world to different TTRPGs. And what I think is more likely going to happen is we're going to have people who are playing, we're going to have groups that are playing this mini campaign in D&D, and as soon as this one's over, they're going to do Daggerheart, and as soon as this one's over, they're going to do Draw Steel. And then you're going to have players that are like, oh, I have a D&D campaign once a month on Fridays, and then I have a Daggerheart campaign that plays on Mondays. And I think we're just going to start to see more players adventuring into the world of different TTRPGs. And ultimately, I think that is a great thing, because as you start to play different ones, you start to learn what you like, what you really like, what you don't like, and you can start to kind of bring those into your own little, homebrew concoction to create something that you really love, or just keep playing all the different systems and enjoying it.
No, I 100% agree. I think this will be the catalyst for more people to try different TTRPGs, and I think one of the ways that they will do that is that in the opening pages of the Daggerheart core book, it says, we took inspiration from a bunch of our favorite TTRPG systems, and here are like 5 or 8 of the top ones that we took some really heavy inspiration from because we like them so much. And I think that after, they'll play Daggerheart and they'll be like, huh, I wonder about this one. I might go try this one.
Right.
And even if it's, 3 out of 10 people that go try something new, yes,
Yeah.
I think that's going to grow, and I'm excited for that. So,
Yeah. No, absolutely. Same here. I'm excited to see more people venturing into different games and different systems, different universes. That's gonna
absolutely.
be awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
if you have made it this far, thank you so much. And please be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform of choice that you listen. Go to lovethynerd.com and check out our page, as well as all of the other fantastic podcasts in the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. Jeff, what else? What else do you want to say about Love Thy Nerd?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, we are part of the Love Thy Nerd podcast network. So, Love Thy Nerd is a Christian organization of nerds that we come together. We love Jesus and we love nerdy things, everything from TTRPGs like Daggerheart and D&D to board games and wrestling and video games and just literally everything in between. We probably have a podcast on each of those things that you like. So, make sure you go ahead and check out Love Thy Nerd. There should be a link to the website down below, as well, assuming you're on YouTube, as well as a link to the Discord, so you can go get plugged in and find out what all Love Thy Nerd has to offer.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, I think that wraps up today's episode. And again, if you've made it this far, thanks for listening to our critical review of Daggerheart. We're so glad it has launched, and we're looking forward to playing it more. But from our table to yours, thanks for joining the RPG Rundown.
And until next time, may your rolls be epic and your stories legendary.